Hi everyone, today we are going to present our case on McDonald's in India. First, let's discuss the case context. In 1996, McDonald's chose joint ventures to enter India, partnering with Hardcastle Restaurants for the West and South, and Connaught Plaza restaurants for the North and East. This structure aligned ownership, local knowledge, and regulatory navigation while preserving brand control. In contrast to a wholly owned entry, the JV route balanced the speed of rollout with risk sharing, which matters for an emerging market with fragmented supply chains and strong cultural norms. Second, the background clarifies why the opportunity was large yet sensitive. India passed 1 billion people by 2011, with GDP near 1.7 trillion US dollars and a faster urbanizing middle class. However, roughly 40% of consumers identify as vegetarian, and there are strong dietary norms that exclude beef and pork. Similarly, family dining and hygiene are salient differentiators against informal street food. These factors imply that access and acceptance would depend on localization rather than simple transfer of the global menu. Next, scale dynamics show traction and ambition. Exhibit 1 reports growth from 52 outlets in 2001 to 159 in 2007, with managers targeting 250 by 2013. However, that footprint required early capability building. By 2000s, McDonald's had invested about 400 million Indian rupees to establish a dependable cold chain and to professionalize upstream partners such as Vista and Dynamics. In contrast to relying on spot purchasing, the company seeded a dedicated ecosystem to deliver consistent quality at low cost, which is foundational in a price-sensitive market. Moreover, the country context highlights why adaptation was optional. First, formal fast food competed not only with global chains like KFC, Pizza Hut, and Domino's, but also with local restaurants and ubiquitous street vendors that offer convenience at very low prices. Second, buyer power was high because switching cost was minimal. The value architecture had to feature accessible entry items such as McAloo, Tikki and at 25 rupees, and vegetarian variants like McVeggie. Third, substitutes was culturally resilient home cooking and diapers, which reinforces third, the need of trust, cleanliness, and family-friendly formats to justify a visit. Finally, tie back to cost concepts shows why this cost belongs in globalization and entry moves. The joint venture decision exemplifies how multinational firms configure value activities across borders by leveraging local partners while protecting core brand assets. Similarly, the localization of products, processes, and the supply-based industry adaptation along the value chain rather than just in marketing communication. In contrast to pure standardization, the India playbook embodied cultural insight. price discipline, and operational innovation into operating mode. Moving on, we can map these facts into Porter's five forces to evaluate entry barriers, supplier and buyer leverage, substitutes and rivalry, and to explain how this pressure shaped McDonald's choice in India.
Okay, thank you. Nice to meet you guys. Hello everyone. I'm November 3 today. I'm gonna talk about how McDonald's nailed it in India with some smarter movies. We'll cover the meal changes, spot changes, and the fix and the growth plan. All turn out to our course, ideas for locations and values change. Let's jump in. Okay. First, I want to talk about the menu. Indians is different. About 40% of people are vegetarian, so it's a big information. And beef or pork just on fly. So McDonald's came up with stuff like the McAloo Tikki for just 25 rupees, and the McVeggies for 65 rupees. As shown in, these are cheap, with just options that fit local taste by making the menu feel Indian. So it's very important. McDonald's on our customers and show how location they work. So next up, supply chain. Indian rolls and storages weren't great. So let's talk about this. Making sure to keep food fresh is very important in India. McDonald's takes this by spending 400 million rupees by 2000 to build a cold chain. As mentioned in this left their delivery is Friday inter, so it's very important. So them drivers fresh integrate anywhere, keep their food top quality. A strong value chain help them grow and without losing their standards. So we need good standards, but we can't lose the fast. But in this way, 400 millions to the fullest respect to 2000 to build a cold chain. It's a good way to solve this problem. So now let's talk about the growth. McDonald's saw big portation in similar two cities where people were winning more and eating out. So it's a big trouble, right? They aimed to hit 2,500 stores by 2030. They also added regional flavors to many flavors. But anyway, like South Indian dishes to pull in more customers. This mix of expression and local applications is done right. So doing the McDonald's in the worldwide company, we need to know this, what is location tab. What is the location people local people need to the favorite. So this moves I want to say this menu tweaks, supply chain upgrades, and smart grooves, contact to our codes, location help McDonald's fit in the Indian's culture. Where also the value together can keep this running smoothly together. They made McDonald's is be the local favorite. Being local is the best way to the you can do it, the market in the India. You must know the culture, you must know the flavor, you must know the local everything. So to work McDonald's turned Indians' challenge into win with clever ideas. Next, our final speak to will some to add up. Thanks.
Now we'll be analyzing McDonald's challenging strategic entry into India using Porter's five forces. The environment was uniquely hostile. As you can see in the slide, 4 out of 5 forces were rated medium to high, demanding massive, non-negotiable strategic adaptation. McDonald's couldn't just open a store, they had to fundamentally re-engineer their business model. Now, we'll examine how they addressed this intense pressure. Firstly, the threat of new entrants. The entry barrier for McDonald's was very high. They had to invest an estimated INR of 5 billion cumulatively by 2008 just to create a quality cold chain supply network from scratch. There was no infrastructure that existed at the moment of time. However, the threat from local QSRs remains quite high. They are backed by private equity and are inherently better positioned to serve local taste, forcing McDonald's to constantly prove its relevance in the market. Moving on to bargaining power of suppliers. This is the one force of McDonald's successfully neutralized. But it required a huge investment. They didn't just source locally, they developed local farmers and producers so that they can still remain in the market and prove its relevance. So basically, by the early 2000s, 96% of all ingredients were local. This created a captive, high standard supply chain that guaranteed quality and enabled their crucial low strategy in the long run. Now, we'll talk about the bargaining power of buyers. So, the Indian consumer has immense power. This is driven by extreme price sensitivity and switching costs. To attract initial volume and shed their premium image, they had to price aggressively, offering items like the McAloo Tikki at, at just INR 28 and the soft serve cone for INR 8. They successfully positioned themselves on value and not luxury, which is a good point to be taken by McDonald's, as there's a lot of competition existing in the market in India. Now we'll be talking about threat of substitutes. So as I mentioned previously in the bargaining power of buyers, the primary competitor isn't just a global chain, it's the Indian street food, as it's authentic, fresh, and readily available. This is compounded by the fact that 40% of the market is vegetarian. McDonald's had to execute a radical change, localizing up to 75% of its menu. Crucially, they invested heavily in operational trust, building basically a separate vegetarian and non-vegetarian kitchen to address deep cultural concerns. Now, moving forward, we will be talking about rivalry among existing competitors. So, finally, rivalry is intense. McDonald's is not the market leader. They are lagging behind rivals like Domino's and Yum brands like KFC and Pizza Hut, who had 60% more restaurants at the time. So they opened quite later compared to their competitors, existing competitors, right? So the current strategic dilemma here is that, as highlighted in the case, is expansion versus economic slowdown. So rivals like KFC are planning aggressive growth, aiming for 500 restaurants. McDonald's must decide whether to match this pace and risk overextension, or pull back and risk ceding vital market share to hungry competitors. So, to sum it all up, in summary, McDonald's success in India hinges entirely on its strategic adaptation. So, basically, it depends from how the farm is to the fork, which was necessary to survive on a competitive landscape where most forces were stacked against them. Thank you.
So, to sum up everything, McDonald's success in India really comes down to how well it adapted to its environment. Starting with localization, about 40% of India's population is vegetarian, so McDonald's completely redesigned its menu. They removed things like pork and beef and introduced veg options to match local tastes, and that cultural fit genuinely helped them build trust and acceptance in the market in those early 2000s. um, then comes the pricing. They launched burger at a very low price point, as we can see in exhibit 3, which helped them reach price sensitive consumers while competing with local street food vendors and comparatively cheap food which you can get in India. Next comes supply chain innovation. So McDonald's invested around rupees 400 million to build an end-to-end cold chain network in India. They also solved long standing infrastructure issues and improved quality control. Finally, comes down the growth stage where From just 52 outlets in 2001, they reached to 159 by 2007, and as of today, in McDonald's India operates 421 restaurants across 67 cities, and they've also expanded into tier 2 cities with like some specific regional menus, like maybe hub spots like Bombay, Delhi have some specific menus. But just apart from that, altogether adapting to Porter's five forces, um, managing buyer price sensitivity, integrating suppliers, and differentiating through local relevance is what made McDonald's India a long-term success. Now, moving to our second slide, let's look at the key strategic insights and some future recommendations from for McDonald's India. First, in terms of insights, let's talk about how McDonald's became a success, and because of their local adaptation and even by their supply chain innovation. By developing a completely localized menu and building one of India's most advanced cold chain systems, they created both cultural and operational advantages for their brand. Um, their basically integrated value chain allowed consistent quality and affordable pricing, but they also were able to build trust in such a price sensitive market. As a result, today McDonald's operates in like around 67 cities, which also shows their growth in the year 2025. And now, looking ahead, here are some key future recommendations that McDonald's can adopt to even grow better in India by launching plant based and a millet based protein items, because India is getting health conscious right now. Um, Building a digital loyalty ecosystem basically, and integrating UPI into it so that they can adapt to India's fast paced payment gateways, and also by moving towards zero waste operations by expanding recyclable packaging and solar power units in their operations. And one recommendation would be because India's startup ecosystem is growing and a lot of um, jobs are coming in, that they should co-create and partner up with some startups to um, celebrate India's diversity. And let's